Okay, so non-primitive data types. So they are more complex than primitive data type. They are also called as reference types because they refer to some objects, and that is why it's a little bit complex than different than the primitive data types. And there are basically two different types of non-primitive data types. One are classes and the interfaces. So in this example, I'm going to talk about the classes, and I will leave the interfaces for some future videos because it's a little bit more advanced concept in Java. But let's see an example together and like what I mean with the reference type and in the category of non-data primitive data types. Okay, so let me show you an example how to use string reference type objects as non-primitive data objects. So let's start with the string and give it a name like my string. Remember that Java strongly recommend to use camel case format of naming convention of your variables and simply give it a value. For example, I am giving it hello world and finally print it out. Sys out, like type sys out and press control space to invoke autocomplete stuff, and then it will just write type down all the way and simply here give the name of your string. And if you print it, print the value. Now here one thing is more interesting. Like with this type of objects of reference types, you can also have an how to say this string. If you all invoke the dot operator, you will see the all the associated methods that are that comes with this kind of object. So unless like primitive data types, we don't have these kind of methods. They are simply simple variables, but with this kind of reference types, we have a lot more options to work around. So for now, for example, we are interested in seeing the hash code, and we can see that it has a hash code of this. That is basically a memory address of the content that this value holds. So it's a kind of a fast way or an alternative way to identify a variable or its content. Like if we don't know the name of the variable, then maybe we can also loosely identify the variable by its content. And one thing more is like if I just to prove it that is the hash code is unique, is only based on the content or not only the variable. We can, for example, create two variables, string one and string two, and both of them are having the same value. If we call it with, if we print both contents hash, what would be the output? Can you guess? Just pause the video for now and then see if you can guess the value. Okay, so if I run the program again, you can see that both have the same integer value because the hash code represents the content hash in the hash table in the memory. Yeah, if I change a little bit, for example, I've changed the value and then again, and you can see that now the memory reference is now changed. Classes in Java are the basic building blocks in object-oriented programming language in Java. So they are the blueprints of any object where you define properties and behavior or anything like how your object behaves. So that sort of things you define in a class. So let's see together how we can create a class in Java and define some properties and also some methods and see how it behaves in a Java program. All right, so let's create a class and define some properties in it and see how we can do something with it. So for example, we can create a class object. Maybe there are two ways to create a class. Either we create a class on top of the main of this class, or just create a new class object here. First try with here. For example, I am just public class with last person, and inside the curly brackets you define a class. So it's just this is the syntax of defining a class in Java. So for example, here I'm defining two uh, how to say, two fields, private name, private age, for example. Then I'm just defining a public constructor, which is basically same as the class name. And there we define, oh, sorry, here I have to define public string of type, what kind of name, and like this. So like I'm defining here a private string, a variable with the name, and the second private variable of type integer. And here I'm just defining again two variables that are passed through the constructor and that will define the constructor. And in the body of the constructor, I'm just simply assigning the passed value to the field value. So for example, this dot name is equals to the name, and this dot edge is equals to the edge. So what is happening here basically, so this dot name is basically referencing to the field value here, and we are making it equal to the value that we are passing through the constructor. So when we create in our instance of this class person, then we have to pass name and age, which will going to be set to these fields that are set here. So for now, you can see that there are some small warnings that the value of the field person.name is not used, so which we are now going to use shortly. Then we define some, for example, public method, public set name, for example, and there we, for example, or maybe just for now get name and get age. We're defining two different methods that basically get the name and get these fields, name and age. So get name, it will return. So this method will return. We are defining a method of type which return name of type string, and here we basically defines this dot name. And similarly, we define another method which returns the age. And here we are assigning it of type integer and to age. And finally, we are here, for example, these methods return the type of integer and string. But if we wanted to return without any type? So for that, we can use void, public void, and we say, for example, greet method, take no argument, and what it does, it basically, it doesn't return, but it just return or print something on the console. So what it will do, it will simply this dot age name and this dot age. Okay. He said syntax, this, okay, yeah, no, yeah. And we say something, some message here. Welcome, Mr. Mahmood. Your age is where we are passing here. Okay, so now we have defined our class person having two fields, string and name and age, name of type string, age of type integer. Then we have a constructor that basically we pass an input fields like name and age, which will be mapped to these fields. And finally, we are using two different methods to return these values, and we are using them then here. Okay, so now we are in the main class, and then we, for example, we delete this stuff here, and we define, for example, notice previously like we are defining our reference types like this. As in our previous example, we use a string, my string one, and then hello world. So in this case, we are now we have our different object called person. We give it a name like small caps person, and then we define new person. And here, notice that here we have we see that it says if you save it, it is still complaining us because it says the constructor person is undefined. We need to define the constructor as well. So like the constructor uses as two different arguments which we pass. So like example Mahmoud, and let's give an age of 30, for example. Okay, now it says another warning like the value of local variable person is not used. Now we can call our sys.out, and there we can say person. Now here we can we have different options. Like if we define get, we press the dot button, then we see that there are two methods here, get age and get name. Either we can call like get age, and we copy again, and then we say here, for example, get age and get name, or we can also use directly the greet method. Okay, yeah. Here we see we have to use it without because it's a void method. It doesn't return anything. It's just a print statement in it. Okay, so that's how we can define a class object and use it in our program. And when I run this program, you can see that the first line, the system out, just print the name, Mahmoud, and the second line, the get age is 30, and person.greet will just simply return or call this print line method that we have defined in our class object as like this. Now there's one more approach, like this code is not clean here, so we can copy all this stuff here. We cut it, and we are going to create a new class, and we call it person, and we simply click finish. Now in the person class, we simply paste all this stuff here. And when we go back to our main class, and when we run it again, we can see the same results. So that's how you can write your code, and in a very organized way, you can define classes in their own classes and keep it inside. Now, the one thing maybe you can ask yourself that how it is possible that you are writing something in a different class and how you are accessing here. The answer is simple, that this module here, the package name, the package is same. If your code is reside in the same package, you can access it. So you can see in the main class, this is person details. In the person class, it's also the same package. So as long as your code reside in the same package, you can access it in your main function. So that's how you can do stuff with your classes. In this video, you have learned how to create class objects, define some fields and methods, and all define any kind of behavior in it, and perform some task and use it in your program. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. If you have any suggestions, then feel free to write them in the comment section below, and see you next time.